welcome to Studio Soup. My name is Peggy Reavey, and Studio Soup is a place where artists get together and talk about their working process, what goes on in their head, their heart, their studio / dark room as they're working, when they start from the spark of an idea to its fulfillment. Tonight we have three terrific, accomplished and acclaimed photographers who make their home in San Pedro, I might add. Ray Carofano, Guillaume Zuili, and Dennis Keeley. These guys, their work is shown, exhibited nationally, internationally, and published widely too. Lots of beautiful books. I knew that I wanted to feature these three photographers on Studio Soup, but I really wasn't sure I would be the one to moderate it because I thought it would be very technical and it would be about lenses and cameras and chemicals, And of course, every time I do one of these, I realize that I have so much to learn, which is part of the fun. And I realized that it's, how you take the picture and some of the technical things you do, of course, are very important. But it also matters hugely who is the person behind the camera? How did they choose photography? And what are they looking for? What are they looking for? So that's just a start. And I'm not even a photographer, so here we go. I want to start with Ray Carofano. Ray, your father told you when you were age 10 to quit hanging out at the railroad tracks with gypsies. And you had an innate attraction to the other side of the tracks, to the fringe places and people. And I wonder if you could talk about that and how that connects to your photography.
Sure. Okay. When I saw they weren't gypsies, they were hobos, which they were called. Okay. They were by a train track where they jumped on and off of trains. And I found that interesting and exciting just to jump on a train because I love trains. I had the little toy trains at that time. Then I was around 9 or 10 years old on that when I saw those guys. At the age of 12, bicycling around, I saw another guy about my age, kid my age, and he was a gypsy, which I didn't know at the time, but he was telling me. We started talking together, and they were the family in the gypsies. The whole group of them were in a park close by, and they invited me over there.
And Ray, what do you think it is about the gypsies and the hobos that?
Because they're different. They're different.
Yeah.
They're different from my uncles and aunts, you know what I mean, and family and so forth. And I found them very interesting. And to this day, now I'm in my late 70s, and I'm still tracking down people just living on the edge, of society and so forth. And now I did a book. Okay.
Here you go. Here's a photograph that you could.
Right. Okay. This is New York City in the 1960s, where this little girl, this is in the Bowery, the southern part of Manhattan, which was always a gnarly place. There was alcoholics and druggies crawling on the sidewalks. And I took photographs of them too. You won't find, you'll see one of them here coming up, the Banjo Man.
Mm-hmm.
And even to this day, I go to places that are probably almost unknown. There's a place called Slab City in the state of California.
This is the Banjo Man here, right,
Banjo
Ray?
Man. Yeah, this was New Year's Day at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I was walking around in New York there. And I saw this guy, a block away, and I just kept walking over and get closer and closer, and then kneeled down and took that photograph of him. And yeah, so, and in the Slab City, I don't know how many people listening and watching tonight. There you go. I did a book called Slab Dwellers. I've been doing more documentary work than anything else in the last 20 years now. This is a burnout. This is where he used to live, right behind him in this building. That's nothing but busted up boards, and you can see tires in the front ground. And Slab City, the dwellers, the people that there really don't have any police department around there. So what they do, if somebody steals from them, and then you go back to where you're going to be staying or living or sleeping, it could be burned down. That's the way they take care of business. So there's a book on it called Slab Dwellers, and there's about 70 something photographs in that book.
And that book is your book. It's your book.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, my book. So so I do that. I did a series of work called Broken Dreams, which actually was the first series of work that started in the 1994. This is the first photograph on my way to Death Valley. And we're on a dirt road, and another dirt road was off of this road. Took a right on that one, and bam, there was this building. And this is what started the Broken Dream series. Yeah. So,
Okay.
so some people want to know why I do black and white and why you're not seeing any color. I do some color work, and you guys probably know some of it because the series of work on the LA River, which was called River Run, is in color. So I do that. But when I was young, you couldn't get any kind of film in color at that time. So, and all the great photographers that I was looking at was always in black and white. And so I pretty much have stuck to black and white. My work is probably 95% is going to be black and white. And I love it. And I think these two guys here with me, photographers, also are in black and white too.
Yes.
Mostly.
I noticed the portraits, except for the Banjo Man.
Yeah.
When you take portraits of people, like there's that man who's standing in front of his burned out house, and then, well, there's this one too. Yeah.
Mhm.
Can you talk, the portraits, you have a real fascination with people's faces.
Yeah, sure, I do. I mean, we're looking right now at Stephanie. As you can see, she has quite a face, and just the way she sat there for the photograph. All the faces of Pedro, that whole series of work is a book also. And that has about 60 faces in there. And they were all done in my studio. That was done in my studio here. And everything would be set up, ready to roll. And then I would find somebody and bring them back. Sometimes it was at 1 o'clock in the morning because the bars were closing. And I just say, hey, you want some more drinks? I said, I got some, and I talk them into being sitters for me. And that's it. The rest of my work is something I find. I'm a hunter on all ways. I'm not a farmer, I'm a hunter. And I drive around a lot. My wife and I travel a lot. Of course, COVID has shut that down on us to quite a degree. We still go.
Maybe we can see some of the landscapes you've taken.
Yeah, there's a couple in here from up on the top. The first two ones are, in the beginning, I did landscape work a lot, and they sold a lot. And this is Salton Sea when it was Salton Sea. It's pretty dried up now. In this particular time, it was over flooded. It's quite probably a little over 20 years ago. And so anyway, that's what I do. Here is another place too. This is was sort of in the middle of California.
Okay.
And I was at a friend's house. It was he had made some wine, and there was a party there, and I wanted to go out and photograph, and they told me there were a place was a good place. And from where he was, it was about 85 degrees in full sun and blue sky. And we went up high in this mountain area. And every time we went further higher, it got colder and colder. And the time I got up in this place, it was foggy and cold.
And beautiful.
I took this photograph. It was burnt and dying trees. A lot of my landscape work had that to do with it. It was about, well, it's called transformation, is because it was starting to grow in again. You know, stuff grows back, goes out, it dies, and then it comes back. And I like that part in my landscape stuff.
Yeah, that's a fairly optimistic photograph for you. Then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ray.
You're welcome.
Guillaume.
Yes.
Guillaume Zuili. You were born and raised in Paris, and to a family of doctors. And I'm wondering if you could please tell us the story about how you, well, you were preparing to study law in your early 20s, but something had happened when you were 16. You saw something that led you to go in a different direction.
Well, the first day I was born, I was already supposed to become a doctor.
Yeah.
It was a one-way track, and very early on, I knew I would not become a doctor, and law school was already a shame. So when I told them that I was going to that I wanted to be a photographer, hell went kaboom! It went crazy. But anyway. 16, when I was 16, 15, 16 years old, I was a cinema nut. Basically, I was watching movies all the time. And it was série noire movies, all the classic movies. Most of them were in black and white. And one day I watched a Fritz Lang movie, which was the Hindu temple. This one was in color. It was his last movie before he left Germany. And after watching that movie, my obsession was, I need to go to India. I really need to go to India. And so when I am 20 years old, something like that, I am a student in law school, and I leave on holidays to India. And that was the explosion, because on that time I decided to become a photographer. Yeah.
And can you this may not be easy to put into words, but I just am fascinated that trip to India is where you decided to be a photographer, and you had no idea that you were going to do that until you went there. Is that correct? Is that true?
No, it is correct. It is correct. Yeah.
And so was it just, well, that image of the Hindu temple might have prompted it a little. I don't know. What do you think?
It's the only place I felt at home, really. And for 10 years, I was spending time in India, for 10 years, going back and forth. And at one point, I wanted to settle there, to live there. So yeah, India was really, really important. Um, it was a time where there was no internet, there was no cell phone, you know, so going to India was the adventure. It was a trip. I would leave France, Paris, France, everything. And yeah, it was the adventure. So it was a mix of that.
So you were in a really different place, and
Getting out of Dodge, it's the same thing than Ray, you know, it's getting out of Dodge also.
Getting out of Dodge. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. Well, can you talk to us about some of your photographs and what your, oh, here we go. Yeah.
I love to do multi-exposures on film. And so regularly I do some double exposures. So this is a double exposure, and I love the graphism. This is very important, and reality is not really my concern. So it's just about forms and light. This one is different. This is really the architecture, but this is the getting the maximum black, you know, so it's also geometry, light and black. And my work on LA is a lot about movies. It's a lot about série noire, you know, film noir. So when I walk or when I wander in LA, I am in a movie. I am in my own movie, and I have kind of a time period in my mind. You know, I'm stuck to my 16 years old when I was watching série noire from the 40s and 50s. I'm stuck with, yeah. This is close from here. Huh? This is in Long Beach, and I'm amazed by that mix, you know, of oil pits and homes. It's a cacophonic mess, and it's fascinating.
Yeah. And you are a person who came to LA from Paris, but you're not looking for Hollywood.
It's smoke and mirrors. LA is smoke and mirrors, you know, so you find whatever you want. That it's in Pedro. This picture is in Pedro at the end of the harbor, and I am in a movie. Same thing, you know. This is my own movie.
Right, and you talk about somewhere on your website. I read that you photograph dreams and traces. That's sort of how you think of it. It's, well, dream is like a movie.
You know, if you want to go back to the picture, the picture is not
photograph.
Really, yeah, the other photograph. I mean, what's important for me is that it triggers something to someone that is looking at the picture. You know, you can imagine your own movie, basically. If you get into the picture, and it's like a trip, you know, you get into it or not.
Yeah, so you do think about the viewer.
Yeah, I do.
You do. And something that you're not just saying, this is what I wanted to look. You want to reveal something to your viewer or give them an experience.
I mean, this is, first of all, I do it for myself. This is a pleasure above all. And if it pleases the others, it's the better. But if it doesn't, I don't care.
Right. Okay, I got you. Yeah, that's good. And you do an interesting thing with texture, that you use only old printing paper, and you do a particular treatment. I mean, it's hard to see that on the looking at it on a computer. But not only do you have these opaque geometric areas of blacks, but you also have these areas that almost look like they've been scraped or
yeah, I do a lit which is a different kind of process. And that brings me that texture and really incredible blacks. And since I started that like 15 years ago, I cannot go back to traditional black and white. This texture, this black, this strong black, it's addicting. And yeah, darkroom is my life. I am more a printer than a photographer, I would say. Yeah.
You do a lot of work in there. And I mentioned, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but that Joshua Tree is a place, not only that you like to go for therapy, but is a place you go back to over and over again to photograph.
Yeah, but it's the same. Photography is also therapy, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that. But yeah, Joshua Tree is like 2 hours away from here. So it's so close. So yeah, I go all the time, and it's so good. It's so amazing. So amazing. Yeah, I need it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're glad that you decide to come to LA, even if you're trying to tell us that the American dream doesn't really exist.
On movies, yes.
Thank you. And Dennis Keeley.
I'm unmuted.
Oh, good. Okay. You told me a story about a time when you were going through a really difficult time in life. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, you had just had your place broken into while you were there, and you were tied up and they stole all your equipment. And soon after that, I believe, was when you were asked if you'd like to teach kids at the Watchtowers, teach them photography. And you said yes.
I did say yes.
Yes, and you said this really was a huge education. You learned about photography from this experience.
You know, it opens a huge door, because I think teaching is about creating a learning environment. I learn from my students. There's one thing about teaching and helping people learn some things, but my whole life's been about listening. When I was tied up in my living room, they were emptying my house. They took the telephone. They took the answering machine. But as they would walk through my living room, they'd hold up my pictures and say, "These stink." And I was saying, I'm being robbed by critics. Like, everybody's a critic. But the kids that came to the Watchtowers were kids that wanted to learn, kids that really wanted to learn. And what I could do with them, and Cecilia, if you want to put up picture number 9, what I could teach them was really about the things that had been taught to me. And I think in my family, being a photographer was the last thing they thought I would ever be. You know, tonight, when I hear my name mentioned with Ray and Guillaume, there was a time in my life I had never thought I'd be welcome anywhere, that I would ever actually be anything. And photography was this thing that I could be, that I could just be. It wasn't about something that I couldn't be. And pictures are, for me, they're not about me. They're about a dialogue that I have with a place and a time. And they're like signs, like a stop sign. They arrest my progress. They make me stop. And what I could share with my students is that art kind of picks you. You have, if you're listening, I love the pictures that Ray and Guillaume showed, because it reminds me that nobody sees these things except for people that make pictures. My wife Veronica wants to make a book someday of me making pictures, because people look at me making pictures, they don't know what I'm looking at. It doesn't make any sense to them. But I see something that really is about a place and a time. Pictures are these signs about, they remind us about the past. They remind us that we're in the present. They make us think about the future. And it's a miracle that they appear to us, that the world participates in our pictures. They make something that we can't make by ourselves. As much as Guillaume works in the darkroom, it's still this what do we make in the darkroom? What's it made of? And those are the things that really define us. I had a commission years ago to document the garden at the Getty, and worked with Robert Irwin. I watched the guy make art out of a construction site, and he would build something and then tear the whole thing out and rebuild it. And he's the guy on the left, but the one deal we made in making these pictures was, he said, I just don't want any pictures of me pointing at anything, because I'm not the captain of this ship. I'm the person that's guiding this. And as a teacher, I never really thought of myself as the captain of the ship. I always looked at myself as being a member of a learning environment, and that we would explore and discover things together. My work is really about that kind of exploration. I worked in Pasadena for years, and while people are on the freeway angry and frustrated, I figured out that's where some of my work will be. And so I looked at this kind of meditative space that I could be in, stuck in the freeway. And I saw people changing their lives. There's a lot of writing now about the freeway is this new place. It's not the destination, it's the place we are right now. And so I love being in LA, because it's a place that is about this transformation. It is about this how do we get places, and our cars are our new homes in some respects. It's about place, it's about time, it's about weather, it's about what do we do with our time. And I ran away to California from New Jersey when I was 14, and came back here to go to school when I was 17. And I wasn't a photographer then, but when I discovered photography, I never looked back. It's been the paintbrush, or it's been the way for me to explore this world. And I'm not done yet.
Yeah, right. No, it's interesting to me that you really have that teaching and learning are very, and photography are all combined for you. I mean, they're all the same thing, kind of. I mean, the photography is teaching and learning. Excuse me.
It really is about this curiosity, this sense of discovery, and all those things. I see one of my students' works. It reminds me to think of life as a student, as a person that's always learning. And we get to these places. I left a job after 20 years. I thought I was closing the door on something, and actually it really was just another door opening. It really was. I can't believe how busy I am, where I thought I was as busy as I could ever be, teaching and running a program about photography. I'm busier now than I've probably ever been, and enjoying it more, because now I have no deadlines. I'm my own. My obsession comes into this, and I see that in Ray's work. I see it in Guillaume's work. It's some of the things that we share. It's really a reminder, almost. The mysteries of beauty and of life and of love are always surprising. They're always, they come to you from left field. If you're paying attention, that whole language of creativity isn't really about the vocabulary. It's about the feelings. It's about the things that make you stop. What makes people look at a picture twice? Everybody looks at everything once, but what makes us stop and think about what does that picture mean? What is, and it's as simple as a stop sign. We run stop signs, but we take chances. But when we stop, it gives us a chance to think and what's happening in this place and in this time, and how do we feel about that? I don't really like the word artist, because I like the fact that we're all human. I was telling Amy 15 minutes before this happened, I was doing the dishes. That's a really important part of being alive. But I love being in a group of artists because I think that it speaks how different we are and how there's so many doors and windows into this house of exploration.
No, I think that's really true. I've noticed that with you guys and with every group that I've worked with here, is like you're all so different.
So
Work is
different.
different, you know. So
we argue
love
about
to-
these things.
hey, Amy,
Yeah, I would love to jump in for a second. We have
Okay.
a question from the audience. Thank you, Dennis, for invoking me in there. I want to also remind the audience, if you have questions for the panel, please put them in the Q&A and we'll get them answered throughout the evening. But the one question I have so far is, the photographer Diane Arbus said, nothing is ever the same as they said it was. It's what I've never seen before that I recognize. Well, does this go with what Dennis was just talking about? So does any part of your process resonate with these words? Nothing is ever the same as they said it was. It's what I've never seen before that I recognize.
I want to add another quote that by Diane Arbus, which is a photograph is a secret about a secret. And I'm not sure it is about the things that everybody's never seen before, but it's about something that the person standing there has never experienced before. And again, we're visual people, so the entry point for this is our eyes. The camera is really it's the pen, or it's the brush, it's the way we interpret what we see. But she was quite a very thoughtful person, and I like that there is a dialogue about the world with photography today. It's probably the most important document of this century. We're defining everything with photographs, the past, the present, and we're really showing people that the future looks more like the present and the past than we think we like, but it really does that. But it's new. It isn't the way they tell you it is. It is the way that it appears, and how we, not how we see it, but how we interpret it.
Mhm. Either of you other guys have any comment about those quotes or thoughts about them?
I agree. What he's saying. Yeah, it's when you take a photograph, you freeze a very small time in your life, and it's there to stay. Within a fraction of a second, it's done.
Mhm.
So what he was saying about photography is correct.
Oh, but Ray is right. It's like it's life lived at 125th of a second at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about for each other? Do you guys have any questions for each other?
So Guillaume, I see a box of orange paper in the background there.
Yes. This is some AGFA paper.
They don't make that anymore.
No, no, no. But
So I have a ton of that paper.
please.
Yeah.
give me-
No. That's the part of being a photographer, that the technical part of it is that we discover something that it becomes ours. It becomes the thing that that it's like a shirt that fits.
Yeah.
Um,
My paper is my treasure here. I collect all vintage papers.
So
I
we
have
we should talk when we're done here, because I have paper that is 30 years old.
Mhm.
And I don't like it to be about craft. And Peggy started this by saying that, you know, photography has this side to it, that the preparation, how we go out with the particular camera, particular lens, and
But we are fetishists.
yeah, but
Yes,
those things
that's
are
good, yeah.
instinctual, right? Those things are really, they are after a while, they just become the way we make pictures. Everybody makes them differently.
And
But I
when you
think that's interesting. I don't think you have to wait to talk about it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm interested, why is paper so important? Why is it so important that this paper be vintage?
because for my technique, I get the best results with vintage paper.
You mean
You have so many,
the
you have
ink?
so many, but you have so many chemicals that are now forbidden for the
Yep.
environment
Oh.
or for health issue, that they are gone.
Yeah.
So now a regular paper today, you cannot really play with it. But with this old papers, I have paper from the 40s, 50s, 60s. I mean, they are full of nasty stuff.
Lots
But
of silver.
yeah, not cadmium and
Yep, cadmium.
other things. Yeah, and they give amazing colors. And so yes, this is important.
Listen, I understand, because I'm terrified that they're going to take our oil paint away.
That's right.
I mean, yeah, in fact, my husband thinks I broke the garbage disposal by washing my brushes in the sink.
You know,
So,
artists
yeah.
live outside that world of what's proper and what's safe. We use things that make us happy. Yeah, I've got tons of chemicals that you can't dump down the drain, and all those things have real purpose. I know why I have them. I know how to use them. I know to be careful.
Yeah.
But materials have consistently changed forever.
And it's part of the magic. It's
Yep.
it's part of the magic. It's the to be an alchemist in a
Yep.
way. You know?
Yes,
And paper
yeah.
itself is a miracle. I went to a mill in Germany and saw paper being made. It was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had. This paper mill is over 400 years old. Now they make paper responsibly. They make it out of sugar cane and hemp and all kinds of stuff. But and I asked them, I said, so you have like the first piece of paper you ever made? And they said, oh no, we used it. I mean, that's why we made paper. And photography, as much as we are on screen tonight, it's still all about paper.
It's the
still,
brain.
yeah,
It's the brain.
it's about the thing
Yeah.
that we can hold in our hand. I think Guillaume earlier did this with the feeling of the paper. It's like
Yeah.
you were holding something that you made. Ray talked about it. It's frozen in time. It's
Yeah.
when you made it, and it looks unlike anything else.
And
this
it's an
is
object,
the
like a
result.
It's
like
an
a painting.
object.
You
It's-
can't fax it,
Nope.
Yeah.
you know?
Nope. Though paintings, photography, sculpture, these are all interpretations. You send these things over the screen, over the electronic medium. People still can feel those things. It's an important thing. But when you're standing in the room with the picture, with the sculpture, with the painting, something else happens. It can't be reproduced. as much as they think photography is a reproducing medium, it's not. It's kind of a miracle. At 120
Yeah, well, I got
frames
to
a second.
see your prints when I visited your
right.
studios, and it's such a, it's so dramatic, the
Oh, thank you.
difference. Yeah, the difference of seeing those, the prints, you know, the actual print, and it's a whole, well, I mean, it shows you how there's a sort of, if a photograph is, if it's really working, it kind of transcends what it was, you know what I mean? It becomes something else.
We could talk for days about making pictures in a frameless world, a world that has no frame, and how we select a really very specific and particular frame around it, and enclose something in it that has a kind of special relationship, a special meaning, a complexity, a sense of order that in the world is hiding in plain sight. It's there. It's like nobody sees it.
That frame that you are just talking about, it's fascinating because it's most of the time, I mean, we could say that it's also a lie. You
Yes.
lie by just framing because you are not showing what is on the left or on the right.
So true.
Frame. So it's fascinating to imagine what could be on the side of that frame, you know?
So Guillaume, don't you think it's amazing that when you set the camera up, somehow you know where, like not 2 feet to the left or right, but when you're in that place, there's a gravity, there's a sense of making order out of the world that.
But we have a matrix.
Yeah.
We have a matrix. So basically we always do the same thing.
Yep.
At first we don't know, and then we realize that there is how do you say that in English? But a matrix.
Yep. That's.
I don't find my words in
Can you
English,
explain?
you know?
Can you explain that a little more in English? Why did you know?
Okay, what?
Is it like you have this sense of, yeah, I know as a photographer, I know where to go. Is that what you're saying?
Well, more than that, it's not about going a place that's a better picture. And it has probably something to do with perspective, but it has to do with weight and balance. It has to do with in the beginning, when we don't know anything, it's about intuition. And then we make our own rules about where we think it is. And then after that, we throw the rules out. It goes back to intuition, it goes back to, I can't explain it. I've taught people in workshops in Death Valley. And in the morning when the sun's coming up, I've got my camera set up and I look around, they're all waiting to be in the spot I am in. And I go, no, you have to go find your own spot. The light is going to be here for a few minutes. You have to go find your picture. And it's a funny thing. Imitation's a really important part of learning, but then you have to let go. You have to have the courage of your obsession. You have to feel the matrix.
Go for it.
Yeah.
You have to go for it.
Yeah, you have to go for it.
And Ray, when you went to when you were taking those photographs of the LA River that are very abstract, really.
Mhm.
So how did you go about finding, this is where I want to photograph, like they're talking about?
I would actually on the LA River, there's
That's Guillaume's. Yeah.
They're it's totally different. What I looked for, why it makes it abstract, is the water in the LA River. In the center of it, there's running water, and on the side of that, it's not running. And so what reflected in it, I would wait until the sky was blue and there was some clouds up there, because the clouds would pick up like white. They look like paintings
Yeah,
a bit, and I pedaled. And that's how I found out about it. I had been a bicyclist for quite a while, and I used to do bike rides up alongside that. And I had a flat tire one time, and I had fixed it. And I would look down in the water, and I went, "Wow, this looks really interesting here." And then the next day, I was down there with my pack of cameras on my back, and a tripod. And so I would pedal around until I would see something that struck my eye. Then I would stop, set it up, and take a photograph. And
yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot that you don't have any of those in these pictures, so we can't show
yeah,
them.
I
Yeah,
did have one, but there was,
Yeah.
you can only have 10.
that's
in
okay. You've got a gazillion beautiful pictures, I know.
There's a
Yeah.
book on that one too,
Yeah.
And people
Can
can
I-
look at our websites.
Yes, that's right.
yeah,
And
that's right. You
I'm
can
gonna,
see it on my
Yes.
website.
Amy?
I'm gonna jump right in here. Those websites are gonna be up at the end of the event. People can take a screenshot of those and find you guys and look at this. But we have a couple great questions in the Q&A I just wanted to throw out there.
Okay.
Maybe could we talk a little bit about the impact of digital photography on your work? I know that all of you love a darkroom. But could you talk a little bit about the impact of digital photography? And after that, I'll have another question.
Ray, why don't you start with that?
Yeah, I should. I enjoyed my darkroom, and when I stopped, I was probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and started doing digital work. Like I talked about earlier, I don't know if it was before that everybody.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Okay. Physically, for me, I'm going to be 80 years old this year, and I have arthritis in my shoulders. So for lifting and hanging the paper up and the thing, it was very painful for me. So I started to do that, and the difference between digital and darkroom work, it's quite a bit different. It took me a while to learn how to do digital work after all those years of doing darkroom work. But anyway, it's been helpful for me. The images are quite good. When I started to do it, I looked at the images, and it seemed to be better because it was more like the shadow areas had some now for the first time I could see something in it. And after a while, I stopped doing it like that, and I am now making my photographs like they are darkroom work. Matter of fact, photographer friends of mine that have been in a long time too, and I had them on the table, photographs, both of them, digital and darkroom work.
Analog.
They could not tell the difference. These guys, they would tell, that's got to be darkroom work, and I go, no, it's digital. And they couldn't believe it. So photography isn't about cameras, really. To me, isn't just about a special camera. Sometimes there was a time I spent like about 10 years with a 29-year-old $29 camera made in China. I enjoyed doing it. It was a Holga for you guys, and it worked out okay. But anyway, that makes it so much. I know Guillaume has a special camera, and it makes the special photographs with it. And anyway, it's really about seeing eyes in a brain, but that you have to know and see. That's why when we travel, if we're driving around, I never get on a freeway. I'm in dirt roads, or I'm on, little streets and so forth that I can see stuff, and turn around and go back and shoot. So it has, I mean, where's the art come from? It doesn't come from a camera, does it? I
Yeah,
mean, the camera is a tool.
yeah.
And for a painter, it might be a certain brush or a certain device that you paint with that maybe
Mhm.
changes stuff and does different things.
Well,
there is
Guillaume
more-
says
there is
he's a
more than that.
fetishist, though.
No, but there is more than that about digital photography. For me, it's the death of photographers, digital
really?
photography. Newspaper, I mean, I used to work for a magazine and newspapers. When digital photography arrived, internet was on the same way. The price I would sell my pictures went down, 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 down. The assignments, the price went down, 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 and everything was cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And there is no, and newspaper don't have any more money now to hire a photographer. And they ask their journalists to take their iPhone and take a picture.
Mhm.
So this is what digital photography is for me. It's death of photographers. Voilà. I don't like digital photography.
Okay. So yeah, no, well, we have differences. in
Even if it
opinion,
does
yeah.
beautiful things, even if it
Yeah.
does beautiful things, you
Well,
know.
Guillaume, you look very alive to me.
Yes.
I am alive, but I am a resistant. We are resistant.
I think,
And we are survivors. Now you have so many photographers that are almost homeless, you know. There was Stanley Green. He was a war photographer. He was amazing. He got so many awards. He was a really close friend. And he didn't have a home at the end of his life, you know, and he died sick alone. Because you can go to Afghanistan, you can go to Iraq and not sell a picture, or even if you sell them, it doesn't even pay your bills. So
you know, when electronic music came in and all these keyboards could simulate orchestras, people thought that, you know, the violin was going away. And yes, they made a lot of music for television that was really cheaply made. And then there was a return to craft and a return to. We're very lucky that we really understand the history of photography, and the pictures in the museums were made by junk, made by cameras that, like Ray said, $29. The art that arrests people's progress. It's like you keep going backwards. But one of my students brought me one of the brand new, you know, digital cameras and said, "So this is the best digital camera made." And I said, "Yep, no pictures in there. Pictures in here, no pictures in those cameras." So good luck with that. You're in the right place. You're starting to learn, and you're going to start at the beginning. So it really is about this generation. This is the environment they're in. So they are, of course, very familiar with it, very comfortable with it, but learning and education needs to make a new jump backwards almost, to where how people don't learn any faster. So as convenient as this all is, and how it's on 24 hours a day, people don't learn any faster. So it's a time. I love making a beautiful digital photograph, just like Ray. When it's beautiful, it's beautiful. The biggest difference is that you can make these in the light. You can look at the bad work you make, and it's light all the time. So
you are not a vampire. You are not
it
a
stares
vampire.
back at you. I like the mystery of creation, of that you never know. You're surprised by it. So even though it's ones and zeros, there's
Yeah.
still quality of surprise in wow, how'd that work?
So Amy?
Yeah, thanks so much for those stories. Those were great. I have another question that I think leads us from this into today. And
Okay.
how has the pandemic shifted your practice? I mean, if digital to analog and back vice versa has it altered it? Has it altered your subject matter in any way with the pandemic? And if either of you have any pictures that we have from the pandemic, we'd love to share some of those.
It helped me during that time. We really stayed in our building, which is a gallery, and it's our home, and it's where I make my photographs. So during that particular time, I was able to make photographs from what I had already taken with the camera. And I had time to put it into frames that I did. I did all that stuff by myself. And so that was good. Otherwise, I mean, I have to say that I'm really bummed out about not being able to travel like we used to. You know, my wife and I are both careful. We're both in our 70s, so we have to be careful about going out and getting on airplanes and then traveling and going to a hotel that you don't know who the heck slept in that bed.
Yep.
You know, so we've gotten away a little bit into the deserts where we could be by ourselves, and we didn't camp. We did camp, but not in a campground. We would be somewhere, we'd find this place out there where nobody's around. And
Here's one of your pictures. Right?
yeah, this is Tijuana back in the 60s.
It's
The
beautiful.
little girl's got to be, if she's alive now, she'd be about
Beautiful picture.
about 60
Yeah.
years old.
Yeah.
So anyway,
So Cecilia, if you put up number 3 of my pictures, that's a recent picture I made out in the Mojave Desert. I don't mind isolating right now. I was very public for a long time, and this last year has been a time for me to be a little more reflective, to go out into the desert and find my new pictures, you know, my next picture. And I always look at this thing like it's a practice, you know, that you know, there's always a humor in my work. If you can see it, it's like that's the loose screw there, you know. And that's the part of it that I wind up not taking it so seriously. But I find these shapes. It's about a landscape. It's about being there. It's about how do I look down at this vast place and find the little thing that says, "Hey, make a picture of me." I'm not making very many pictures of people these days, but I don't really miss that right now. But I do. I think the pandemic is something that the world will never forget. It's something that we will share. You know, this is another thing that I did in Joshua Tree about, you know, finding an object that frames and isolates the thing we look at. And I think the discussions, the political discussions we're having are hysterical. I think the world will come back to the small world it's becoming sometime soon. The internet was supposed to lead us back to each other. In some respects, it's doing that. And in other respects, if you don't have perspective, it just continues to be little boxes on screen. But this is keeping everybody safe. I'm not complaining about that. When I go, like Ray, when I go to some public place, I'm very careful. I think that being an artist doesn't prevent you from getting sick.
Oh, yeah.
Wish it did. I wish it did. But we're not traveling. But I love being at Angel's Gate. I love having a space that from home I can go there. It's not. I'm not in this place 24/7. So it's good to go someplace that I also have my darkroom. So
when the pandemic started, I was in France on an artist residency in the country, and then they announced the lockdown. So I rushed back to Paris to be with my mom. She's 92, so I
Oh, wow.
wanted to be with her. And the measures were really strict. We could only go out 1 hour. The distance was 1 mile maximum, and you could only go out once to basically to go to the store, pick up some food and go back. So for almost 3 months, I took that hour to take 1 picture. My goal was to have 1 picture, and it was in the same neighborhood. It was a few blocks, you know, not even, and it was an interesting exercise. And then as soon as I could, I took a plane back to LA, and that was a paradise because you could go anywhere without any traffic, with nobody, and you could do a lot of pictures. So that was a paradise after that. This is my, yeah.
You want to talk about this one?
Oh, this one, again, the double exposure, you know, this is something that I like. It's in Culver City. I used to live really close to that theater. And this is my matrix. What can I say? This it represents a time period that I love, and I love it. It's just vibes, as Dennis said earlier. It's vibes, and I hope you get the vibes.
Yes.
And this, it's in Harbor City, and for me, it's Série Noire. It's a movie. You are in it's in a back alley, and you make your own stories, and you go on.
Light and texture and
Always.
And story,
and
and
the
story and mystery.
Yeah,
So-
story, and you make up your own story.
Yeah.
If that's my goal. That's what I like.
any more, Amy?
No, actually, we do have one more if you have a second.
Two.
What do you think about photo-based social platforms like Instagram?
Mm.
I think that's a perfect question for the three of you.
I think it is.
It's a necessary evil, I would say.
I think Guillaume got it perfect. It is a necessary, it's part of the practice. It's not that. So that's an interesting question, because it's not photography. It's almost the train tracks of it all, because there's the creative part of it, and then there's the social platform, and somewhere in the future it looks like they meet, but they never will. They will always just be train tracks. It will always be like, this is the part you make work, this is the part that you serve the work. And it's kind of a discipline. I'm on Facebook more than Instagram, because I like to write, and but everybody's on Instagram 24/7. We're living in this weird time where Apple said that everybody's a photographer. Everybody's not a photographer. There's the majority of people don't want to be photographers because it's not fun for them. I'm happy they have a device that's a telephone that, you know, they get to talk on the phone. You know, when I got my new iPhone, I thought I was going to get better calls, you know, but I got the same calls. Instagram looks the same all the time. I think that immediacy of loving and liking is not of much value. It's people like things for strange reasons. That's life. I don't like a lot of stuff that people like. I listen to different kinds of music.
Can I say something? Because
Yeah.
it goes back to the question of digital photography.
Yeah.
the Instagram and all of that, it's an ocean of pictures. It's a flow of pictures that are fed every day, every day, every day. It's billions of pictures. Out of these billions, they will be gone. It reminds us about the photo album, the family photo album that we find, in the attic of the grandfather and blah, blah, blah. All of that is going to disappear. So it's the memory that is going to disappear. And this is so sad, because we do print, so we will have traces. But so few people today print their own pictures. It stays in a hard drive, it stays on the phone, and one day, poof, it's gone.
No, it's true.
Yeah, so it's
Guillaume's
really,
exactly right about that.
photography is memory, and memory is the print.
And the electronic medium is fugitive. It's like a light bulb. When it goes out, it's gone. Can't restart it. In this infancy, I think what people don't realize is the cloud is just another hard drive. It's like that can go to with the billions of pictures that are being shared every day. The majority of them have no value. They don't. I mean, I don't really care to see what you had for lunch. It's. But what I care about is these kinds of timeless things. I made this picture out at El Mirage Lake about water conservation. That place used to be a lake, it's a dry lake now. And we towed that boat out there. We were crazy, but it was about a panel about water conservation, about where we live in a desert. We should be mindful of water use.
But it's a beautiful photograph, no matter what it's for.
We try to remind people that we live in a beautiful time. We should pay attention. Go back to what Guillaume was saying, is that the billions of pictures, 1 out of a billion is a beautiful picture. It's an accident, but people don't even know they made it. The photo albums, I'm a big collector of my family's pictures, and I find them to be like really meaningful where I come from. What's so
emotional.
Yeah.
Yes.
And even though my mother used to say, I don't look like anybody. We don't know where we got you. That itself is a part of that story that is really important.
I have a very emotional story about a photo album. My aunt passed away. That was 15 years ago, and she used to live in Alsace. So Alsace is at the border with Germany. And during so we clean up the house, and I found the photo album.
Wow.
And I opened the pages, and we are in 1939. And there is my grandfather, my grandma. They are both seated in the garden. The 2 sisters are behind, and it's very strict. They pose, and they have the little glass of schnapps. And there are 2 French soldiers, in their 1939 uniform. And they are all taking that drink. And I turn the page, and I have the exact same setup, grandpa, grandma, the 2 sisters, 2 German soldiers taking naps,
Oh my gosh.
And I continue to turn the pages. And then what do I have? Same pictures, same frame, 2 GIs.
Oh, wow.
And so you put these 3 pictures together, you have the whole World War II. I mean, it's so powerful, so powerful.
Yeah.
So, family photo album are precious.
Yeah, that's the part that seems right now to be lost. I have a photograph of my great grandfather with his family. I knew my grandfather, but it's a bunch of kids, and named after him, and there's a resonance there that okay, I don't find that in electronic media. I don't find that it don't spend a lot of time looking at other people's pictures either. I'm busy listening. I'm busy.
Do you guys take photos of your own family a lot so that there will be photos to put in your albums?
I do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I have done that too. I've been working on a project, finding all these old, my great grandmother had given photographs to us, and grandmother family photos. I've been taking them and putting them into a folder, and then sending them to my daughter and my son and our grandkids, so that they can have them. And when I look at those photographs, it's so emotional to me. It's really amazing. That's what photography is so important about, I think. So also, there was a photograph of mine. It's number 7. It's goat herders. I don't know if you can bring that up.
There
Yeah.
you go, yeah.
Okay, so I took this photograph in Mexico, and I usually do this to this day. When I photograph somebody or a couple of people, I want them to have a photograph. And I went back down there about 4 or 5 years after I took this photograph, and the man had passed away, and it's his wife on the right. And then I was sad about that, and I was going to leave, and she grabbed me and said, "Wait, don't go." She said, "I want you to show this photograph to somebody else." And it was his daughter, who had never seen him before. She'd never seen him because he went away or whatever. She went away. And I bought this photograph to her, so you don't see her here. But she looked at it, and she looked at me and just started crying.
Wow.
So powerful. So
And then she grabbed me and hugged me, and I cried,
Sure.
over this photograph. So, I mean, that's what's really important too about photography, that you can.
Yeah.
You can
comes-
capture
just,
that
you
moment,
know,
yeah.
I would also say that the audience is agreeing with that as well. We're seeing from the audience that you know, the lack of recognition for print is disturbing for just that reason. I think, Ray, being
Yeah.
able to pull up something on your phone is so different than being able to have an item that you can not only look at but give to somebody. So we have a couple minutes left of this amazing evening, if you could imagine. So if you have any other couple questions for each other, that would be great. But the audience has had
something to
some very great
add?
questions.
Well, I think as photographers are all like isolated and they don't usually talk to each other. I think it's funny every time you see a museum show of a bunch of people that lived at the same time. Most of the time they didn't know each other. People collect these things as if it's a movement, but it's really nice to see Guillaume and Ray, and that I like the fact that we probably live within walking distance of each other, and that maybe this was a moment that in our isolation, maybe we'll visit each other's dark rooms and continue this conversation. I know all three of us want to thank Peggy and Amy and
Yeah.
Judith
Well,
thank
well,
you.
we thank you guys if we're
for
gonna do
pulling us
that.
out of our caves and Cecilia as well.
Yes.
And Angels Gate. I mean, Angels Gate is this amazing place in the South Bay. It's Ray, I've been here 30 years. How long have you lived in San Pedro?
1998.
Yeah, you know, this is an amazing place.
Yeah.
It spoke to me when Veronica and I were looking for a place to live, and we stopped looking when we found it. And it's a it's a special place. And Angels Gate is, I kept thinking in the first few years, they were going to just close it down, wreck it, and turn it into a golf course, you
Yeah.
know? And
Right.
it's a really special place
Sure.
that should, it should be here forever. And that it's a place away from whatever change is going on in the world.
Yeah.
But
This is, I have to say that this has been really such a pleasure listening to you guys talk about photography, because in some ways it is like painting, but in many ways it really is not. And, you know, but there is, don't you think there is something that you're looking for? I mean, I know I've noticed that as a theme in all the conversations I've had with people. We don't go in, I don't go into the studio and just deposit the contents of my brain onto the canvas, you know. I'm looking for something. And it's like when you get into that matrix and you see what you're looking for, whether you even know what you're looking for or not, you know. And
we don't know.
yeah, so
you know, that is the mystery, because like you don't just put paint on the thing.
yeah,
It's even if you're making a portrait, you're looking for something else. You're looking for that
Magic.
yeah, that mystery, right? Something that's
mystery,
beautiful.
magic, a spark of some
Yeah,
kind.
something that's unexplainable, inexplicable, and indelible. It's there forever. It's like crosses time. And the great paintings, when you go see them, they don't look like the slide that you saw in art history. You're standing in front of something that defies explanation. And photography does that as well. It's like
Yeah,
people,
no, it does.
the assumption is that it's either a remarkably large digital print, or it's this thing that was made in the 20s. That's that the average viewer looks at it and said, well, it's just from the 20s. That's what that looks like. And it's different from that. It's you're right about that. It's you're looking to do something that you've never done before.
And you know, one thing I'll say, my experience is looking at you guys' prints. I love seeing them when they don't have glass over them. I love how
You
they
can
look.
touch them and you can
That's
touch
true.
them. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's true.
they look so beautiful that way. You
Yep.
know, I know you have to put glass over them, but
No.
there's something about that paper and just it's right there. You know.
We get to see them without glass all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
We get to live with them, and it's when they leave that we put some protective thing on them.
Sure. Well, it has to be there. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a different object then.
Yeah.
But you're going to go back to it. It's like, it's so great to be in a room that invites this conversation, that it's not a lecture. It's not a sure thing. It's a conversation. It's a dialogue about something that we all do that nobody ever asks us stuff like, so what's your favorite f-stop? You know?
Yeah. Listen, I think Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's time for me to start saying thank you. And I'm going to say thank you so much to Dennis Keeley and Guillaume Zuili and Ray Carofano. You guys have just given us so much pleasure sharing what you do and how you do it. It's really been wonderful. And of course, I thank Amy Erickson and Cecilia Kroger and Judith Blahnik, without whom none of this would happen. So
right. Yep.
Keep doing these.
It feels like it lasted 5 minutes.
Yep.
No?